News.
While your day is winding down, they're just getting started. This is South Coast Tonight with Chris McCarthy and Marcus Farrow. They've got you covered on all the news of the day, from local issues to politics on both sides of the aisle. This is the place where the movers and shakers come to be heard, to listen, and where they're held accountable. This is South Coast Tonight on WBSM.
Good evening. Welcome to South Coast Tonight. I'm Marcus Farrow, and joining me now to make a major announcement is former City Council President and former Ward 6 City Councilor Joe Lopes. Joe, thanks for joining me.
Good evening, Marcus. Thank you for having me.
Joe, you have an announcement to make.
I do. So after some very careful consideration and speaking to members of the community that I know and that I trust, I have made a decision to toss my hat into the ring and seek the office of Ward 5 City Councilor.
So, Joe, you were the Ward 6 City Councilor for some time, but I know you recently became a homeowner in Ward 5. You are, you were Ward 6 City Councilor for 12 years. Your last bid for re-election wasn't successful. It was against now current Ward 6 City Councilor Ryan Pereira. Since you've had a couple of years to reflect on that, I don't know if you had any thoughts and if you're going to be able to work with Councilor Pereira going forward.
I can tell you in all honesty, I had no issues working with anyone on the city council. One of the things that I think I did really well during my tenure as a city councilor was building bridges and having an open lines of communication. I think I showed that during my 4 terms as council president. You walk into the room as a city councilor, you're one of 11, and it's important that you build those relationships with everyone that you serve with.
One of those counselors is endorsing your run for Ward 5 City Councilor, as well as a former city councilor. Can you tell us who?
So I have been blessed to have built friendships with the members of the council that I served with. Scott Lima and I have spoken on a few different occasions since he made the announcement. And he said if I decided to seek the office, that he would support me in my endeavor. And then I had a chance to speak to former Councilor Winterson as well. Councilor Winterson endorsed me when I ran for re-election to Ward 6. And he said he would endorse me as I seek the office of Ward 5. So it's an honor to have the last 2 Ward 5 city councilors endorse me. It was great to work with each one of them and to build the relationships and friendships with each of them that have transpired both inside the chambers and outside the chambers.
Why do you think they endorsed your candidacy?
For the same reason I think they supported me when I ran for council president, and they supported me. They understand that I have the institutional understanding to move things forward, that I have the financial acumen to make sure that the questions in regards to the budget are being asked and the follow-up questions are also being asked, and that I understand constituent services. It's part of the job of being a city councilor is understanding the nuances of the budget and working with department heads. But the other side is also understanding the needs of the constituent. I did that during my tenure as the Ward 6 City Councilor, and I would hope to be able to extend that constituent service into the residents of Ward 5.
So there's been a lot going on in the city council lately. There's been a lot of discussion about who gets along with Mayor John Mitchell or not, and who gets along with who in the council. What's your relationship with New Bedford Mayor John Mitchell? And if you're elected and he's reelected, which we all sort of expect to happen, what do you envision your relationship with him would be going forward?
I worked with the mayor for 10 years while I was on the council, and he was the mayor. During that period, I was, lucky to be the council president 4 times and to be able to have those one-on-one meetings directly with him. As the council president, you get, excuse me, you have weekly scheduled meetings with the mayor. And during my tenure, I always had those meetings and the dialogue with him. I think Mayor Mitchell and myself had a good working relationship together. We didn't agree on every issue, but we understood that we were all working for the betterment of the city as a whole, and that you needed to have the ability to have an open and honest dialogue with the members of the council and the administration.
You talked about having a background in finance. Right now, you're the executive director at Mass Hire. How's your professional experience going to lend to a new term if you're elected?
The beautiful thing of what I have been able to do in my professional career, from working in education as a teacher when I first ran for office, to being a banker, to now working at the workforce board and being the director, is you get to see a full gambit of the needs that arouse across the entire city. As a teacher, I understood how the budgetary matters were addressing the school system and how important it is for those that are in the classroom. As a banker, you understand the needs of the business community because you're lending to that community. And the workforce board, you get both sides of that equation. Those that are looking for work and those that are hiring employees. So you get to see or bridge both sides of the job needs across the city, from offshore wind to weldings to CNC, all the way down to, the summer youth program. You get to see the needs of the community, and you get to work within the aspect of the business owners as well as those that are looking to obtain work.
There's been a lot of talk about the non-binding ballot questions that the city council's put forward. Given your experience, what's your thought on this maneuver by the council on each of these questions: the Community Preservation Act, the 4-year term, and the rent stabilization question?
So each one of those, I think I have publicly spoken about during my tenure. In regards to the CPA, when it first was announced, I was hesitant or very reserved. During my tenure, I saw the value in the good that it brought. I understand that it is an additional increase on the homeowners' taxes, but I also see that there is no other program with an ROI equal to what the CPA provides to the city.
Return on investment for people who might not know this.
Sorry, the return on the investment. You look at what that has been across the city, from parks to playgrounds to assets, from the Fort Taber Military Museum to the Whalen Museum to the Roach Jones Duff House. The return on the investment has been catastrophic when you look at the amount of funds that have gone in versus what we've been able to use across the city. In addition to that, works for the housing as well. There are several people that have been able to use the CPA funds to rehab and stabilize housing that are being marketed and rented at LMI, low to market rates. So there has been a huge surplus for those tax dollars. You always want to be mindful of the tax dollars that are coming in from homeowners and from the business community, because that's only a finite number of dollars that they can afford to exhaust. So you want to make sure you're able to maximize those dollars. And the CPA has given the city the ability to do that. And again, I will say, when it first came up, it was something that I really had to look at and study. And I think it has been beneficial for the city. And I think it's something that should remain in place when you look at the benefits that it caused. And I understand what the concerns of the taxpayers. I understand that when it did pass, it passed very close. It wasn't overwhelmingly, but I think if you start looking at all the good that it's done across the city, I think the voters would continue to look at the benefits that it's had. And then when you look at, the 4 years mayor term, I I was on the council when that happened, and I didn't speak in favor of it then. I was in favor of keeping the 2 years mayor term. I understand the concerns that some people have had in regards to it, that the mayor has a longer term than anybody else, and it's good for the continuity of the office. I understand those needs. I look at it now, and I still think that there are things that it could have been worked out a little differently. I said this to those that established it. When I was on the council first time, and we had looked at this when we were going to do a charter review to open up the charter review for the city and how it operates, I had made a motion that the first term for the mayor should be 4 years, and every other term, what sequential term after that, should be 2 years. Because the argument has always been, well, the first term the mayor doesn't have a budget. He's using the predecessor's budget, and he or she is still trying to find his way around City Hall and building those relationships.
Sure.
Great. That's true for your first term in office. But after that, they're now your budgets, and those are within both at the local level, the state, and the federal level to build those relationships. So I think, if that was to be looked at again, I think I would be more inclined to vote again against the 4 years mayor term, but it has brought merit to the city. So I can see why people would want to keep it. There is some continuity to it. But the flip side of that, which I said before, is if you don't get a mayor that's doing a good job, you're stuck with that mayor for the duration of that 4 year term, unlike a 2 year term, which was the drawdown, was it's a very short cycle. So now you could have a situation where you had a mayor that wasn't doing the will of the people or wasn't working towards the betterment of the city, and you could be stuck with that mayor for a longer period of time. But I can tell you, I've talked to a lot of people from the business community across different spectrums, and most people are inclined to support the extended term. I don't think no one has said there's been a significant drawback other than the side sometimes of the aisle that you serve or sit on, depending if you are in favor of the agenda that the person in the corner office is supporting. So I think that plays a big thing as well to it.
So we're speaking with Joe Lopes, former Ward 6 City Councilor, who's now a homeowner in Ward 5 and is running for the Ward 5 City Council seat that is being vacated by outgoing Councilor Scott Lima. So what do you see as some things you'd like to work on if you're elected to council again? What are some issues that you identify?
Living there, and I've talked to some of my neighbors, and those, it's been really interesting to see. One of the biggest concerns is you have one of the most beautiful parks in the city, and there's not a lot of crosswalks around from Rockdale Ave and near the park. So one of the people that I was talking to a couple of days ago said, it would be really interesting to see if there was some crosswalks put in or some additional lighting around that area, as that it's used from early morning to late at night for people that are trying to get some exercise or just going for a walk or taking their dog for a walk. So that's one of the things that people have been really speaking to me about. Another one is people want to make sure the pond at Buttonwood Park gets the attention that it deserves. I know Councilor Lima has worked tirelessly during his tenure for that. The pond at the park is something that people would like, address more. And I know Councilor Lima worked tirelessly in regards to the Canadian geeses that are non-migratory and have called it home. The other thing that a few people have said to me in early discussions is they want to make sure their tax dollars are being reinvested in the ward. And that's always a concern. I heard those same exact concerns when I was serving on the city council as the Ward 6 City Council. People want to make sure that they're seeing a benefit of their tax dollars. So that's really important. And I know both Councilor Lima and Councilor Winterson were steadfast advocates to make sure there was, the reinvestment in the ward, and the constituent services were always being addressed. People want to make sure that the sidewalks and the streets around their house and their neighborhoods are well maintained and being taken and being looked at. So those are some of the early things from talking to people. And they also want to make sure that the school system continues to make sure that their children are being, provided the best education possible. And you still have neighborhood schools across the entire city. So you're going to make sure that those neighborhood schools continue to be the place where, young minds are nurtured and provide for the opportunity to go on to, middle school and high school and then college. And then you hope that, you do that job and they want to call New Bedford home and come back to the city that they were raised in if they went away to school. So education is always going to be, the forefront on people's minds. And then making sure that the neighborhood is safe and tax dollars are reinvested. It doesn't have the business community that other wards across the city has. So you got to make sure that you're focusing on the needs of the homeowners, but still addressing the needs of the business community that's within the confines of the ward. And the hospital being the largest employer in the area, but also, being a not-for-profit, tax-exempt entity. So you want to make sure that the hospital continue to be that partner that's investing within the area around the hospital to make sure that it still provides the quality of life for those that live there.
Joe Lopes, former Ward 6 City Councilor, now a homeowner in Ward 5 and running for the Ward 5 City Council seat. He's running with the endorsement of Kerry Winterson and Scott Lima, the outgoing and previous Ward 5 City Councilors. Joe, before I let you go, I appreciate you making the announcement here with us on South Coast Tonight. But before I let you go, I imagine you'll be dusting off the old website and Facebook page. Where can people go to learn about your campaign?
So I will be creating a brand new Facebook page. Okay. And I realized the website isn't as big as they used to be. When I first got into running for office, the website was the kicker. I know more and more people are utilizing social media. So when I did have the website, everything was being directed to the Facebook page and Twitter. So I will be, Twitter hasn't stopped, but I will be opening up a new friends page for Ward 5 City Council.
So stay tuned for that. He'll be opening a new social media blitz. Joe Lopes, former Ward 6 City Councilor, former City Council President, now a candidate for Ward 5. Joe, thanks for joining me this evening, and I look forward to talking with you more as your campaign continues.
Thank you, Marcus. Have a great night, everyone.
That was former Ward 6 City Councilor Joe Lopes, who announced his candidacy for Ward 5 City Councilor for the seat that's soon to be vacated by outgoing Ward 5 City Councilor Scott Lima. So it'll definitely be an interesting race over there in Ward 5. All right, we got to take a break. If you want to send us some more after, and then we got some app chat messages. I'll send you some more send me some more, and I'll read them when we get back. This is South Coast Tonight. I'm Marcus. Hey, welcome back to the show. I'm Marcus. So you may have gotten another notification on the WBSM app chat of the article I wrote on WBSM.com. I've said this before. It is a it is, I told you this before. It's always a big help when you read our articles, or really even just click on them. I want you to read them. I really want you to read them, but I'd like you to at least click on it. But there's an article up, basically with the announcement that former City Council President Joe Lopes, former Ward 6 City Councilor, is now running for City Council in Ward 5 after Councilor Scott Lima, Ward 5's Councilor Scott Lima, had announced here on South Coast Tonight about 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, a month ago. I don't know. It all blends together. That he's not seeking the Ward 5 City Council seat. So we'll have an interesting city council race in Ward 5 for sure. It's an open seat, so I imagine more people will jump in as well. You have Zach Boyer, who had the night Lima had announced he was not seeking that term. Zach Boyer had texted me and said he was running. Now you have Joe Lopes, who's announcing his candidacy for Ward 5 City Councilor. So looking forward to that campaign as it unfolds. We'll obviously have our debates here, and and whatnot as well. So, we'll take your messages on the app chat. We've got a couple here. We've got looks like it says South End Johnny, who's saying, I like Ryan. I also liked Joe. Would be cool if he could serve the city in that capacity as well. Thank you, South End Johnny. I'm definitely interested in hearing what Ward 6 people have to say. That was a really hotly contested race for sure. I wish, we've got our team tirelessly working on the phones to get those up. Again, if you're just tuning in, our call feature is not available tonight, but it will be available sometime in the future. So just not tonight. So if you want to make your voice heard on this or on anything at all, really, you can message us on the WBSM app chat feature. So, again, I want to thank former Ward 6 City Councilor, former City Council President Joe Lopes for running. I think that'll. So I moderated the debate in the Ward 6 City Council race. I thought they both did a pretty good job between Joe Lopes and now the city incumbent Ward 6 City Councilor Ryan Pereira. I thought Joe made a pretty good case. Hey, I'm here, I'm doing the work, I know what I'm doing, and all that other stuff. I'm experienced and all that. And then I think Ryan made his pretty impassioned plea for change in direction as well. I thought they both made a pretty good case in that debate. I thought they both did a pretty good job. The voters decided to go for Ryan. I think Ryan's doing well. I like Ryan. And, we were talking. Brian's actually going to be joining us on South Coast tonight for a regular segment. He's chair of the ordinance committee. So the ordinance committee is really important in the city council because it is where it's basically where all city codes are amended and drafted. So an ordinance is a local law, right? Essentially, ordinance is a law at the municipal level. And so what do local legislators like city councilors do? They draft local laws. So like a lot goes through that ordinance committee. So Ryan's going to be calling in regularly after those ordinance committee meetings as the chair of ordinances and giving us an update on that. And there's going to be some really important stuff in there going forward. So I'm really looking forward to that conversation with Ryan going forward. I think the former council president Joe Lopes, I think he's got a really good case. I think he's got a strong case too. He is, and I think it's worth noting because there's always this talk of, you move here to run for this, you move there to run for this. He is actually a homeowner. He's a homeowner and a taxpayer in the ward. So just that's verified. That is verifiable because I've looked it up. I went on the registry. Not that I didn't believe him. I didn't ask him. I went to the registry of deeds. So it's there. So he's obviously invested in the ward. So I know Mr. Boyer is a homeowner in Ward 5 as well. So it's going to be, and I just can't imagine an open ward race with there being three. Oh, so what you can do is you can leave a voicemail by hitting open line in the app. So that's a great way. So you we won't be able to talk, but if you want to leave me a voicemail on the open line on the app, thanks to Tim Weisberg for pointing that out. If you want to leave an open line on the voicemail, you can do that. So you can go in the app, you hit open line, you leave the voicemail, and I can actually play it off the computer. So, again, check out. So do that, and I'll check that out. If you can do that, I will play it over the air. Please keep it FCC compliant. Actually, I have the opportunity to screen those. So I'm going to screen those. I'm going to screen those. So, But please call in on the open line too if you want to make your voice heard. If you you can use the app chat, that's fine. The app chat's good too. But if you want to say something, some people don't want to write. Some people are better vocalizing their opinions as opposed to typing it. Maybe your thumbs hurt for one reason or another. Maybe you don't want to text. I get it. Honestly, I know a lot of people. Some people are texting people. Some people are calling people. I think I'm more of I'm in the middle of it. I'm sort of on the fence with it. Like I think throughout most of the day you can text somebody, and I think it's a perfectly fine way of communicating. Sometimes I do feel like though, if you're trying to explain something, speaking with words and your voice is a little bit better. So whatever way you want to communicate with the show, you can through audibly or through text. So we're happy to have that open line feature, and maybe one of the benefits of one of the silver linings of not having the phone in service as of now is that it opens a pathway for you who may have not have downloaded the WBSM app or may have downloaded the WBSM app and and not use the app chat or not use the open line to use that feature. Again, the WBSM app, I think, is the most effective way of interacting or getting the content here at WBSM that we work hard to put out. And on that app, you will find a story by Chris McCarthy and me about Joe Lopes' announcement and his candidacy for the Ward 5 City Council seat. That's big news. He's obviously going to be a serious candidate for that office, having been elected before, having served in office. So having the name ID, he's got a lot of advantages. So we'll see who else jumps in that race. I mean, you saw a very crowded candidate field in the Ward 3 City Council race, the special election. And Ward 5 is a higher voter turnout ward than Ward 3. So I think you're going to see some other people jump in. I asked Paul Chase when he was here with us. He had originally run against Scott Lima back in 2017 when the seat was open after Kerry Winterson, who's now endorsed Lopes, had stepped down. And Chase, Paul had told me, he told you because it was on the air. He had said he's doing some, good work with the redevelopment authority. He's got some good stuff going on, so he's not entirely sure if he's going to jump in the race, but it's something he'd consider. Again, you got Zach Boyer, who a local activist who very civically engaged and is a nice guy. I like Zach, who's also running as well. So it's going to be a crowded and competitive field, I think, in Ward 5. But I think a candidate like Joe's jumping in. That's a big splash, I think. So we're starting to see some people, we're going to have some other announcements coming. We're going to have some other announcements coming here on South Coast Tonight. This isn't the only one. We got a bunch of others. So you're going to want to stay tuned. And especially if you want to get the jump, if you want to get the scoop on who's going to be jumping into these local races, you're going to want to stay tuned. So what we're going to do actually is I'm going to take a break. And when I get back from the break, I'm really hoping to hear the results of the local Fairhaven races so that I can bring those to you, because there were contested elections for planning board, for school committee in Fairhaven. There are also a hotly contested election for the Freetown Lakeville school committee with that candidate Kayla Churchill, the accused trespasser. So we'll see how those elections shook out. I'm going to check after we take this break. So stay tuned. You can hit the open line feature if you want to leave a voicemail, or you can message us on the WBSM app chat, however you want to do that. I'm Marcus Farrow. This is South Coast Tonight, and appreciate you listening.
Listen to us live anywhere in the world on the WBSM
300.
Real-time reaction to everything that happens after the sun goes down.
Going down till the sun comes up.
South Coast Tonight with Marcus and Chris is on WBSM.
So we're welcome back to South Coast Tonight. We're getting some live updates on the local elections in the Freetown Lakeville School Committee. It looks like. All right, so we're going to start with Fairhaven, actually. So we have. It looks like Wayne Hayward lost his re-election bid. Wayne Hayward, who was on the planning board since 1991, we're hearing lost his re-election bid for planning board. That was following a story that was here on WBSM.com that broke Friday that he was investigated for sexual harassment after he was accused of saying to a town employee that he, quote, like got her on her knees or some variation of that when he asked her to grab a file that was on a bottom drawer in the town. So he lost his re-election bid. So it looks like Patrick Carr and Rui De Silva will be elected to the planning board, and Wayne Hayward's 30-plus year tenure will come to an end. It's over for Wayne Hayward. So, and that was, again, following that story, which you can find on WBSM.com. Kate Robinson did some excellent reporting on that, as she does on anything, on everything. She's an outstanding news person. That story, you can still check it out if you want. Now former planning board member Wayne Hayward was investigated after saying, and this was an investigation that found he likely did say that he had got a town employee on their knees after it was a joke that he made after he asked that town employee to grab a file for him that was on a lower drawer, so she had to bend over to get it. So I guess, the people of Fairhaven, read that story. They processed that. They decided, whether or not they decided that behavior was something they didn't want to see, in public office. So Wayne Hayward, his time as a planning board member is officially over. So we also know that Brian Monroe and Stephanie Pickup were elected to the school committee. So I want to congratulate them. I had them both in studio. Chris and I talked to Stephanie actually on Friday. Both fantastic people. Laura Gardner also is fantastic too. I think she'll still be involved in civic life in town. So really good candidates. Tough choice for the town. Really was a tough choice for the town. So congrats to Brian Monroe and Stephanie Pickup. But we're also getting, this is from Tim Weisberg, that Kayla Churchill in Freetown, this is the Freetown Lakeville School Committee. So I believe she gets voted on in both. I think she gets voted on in both towns. You're going to have to let me know, Tim, if you can. But she got killed, Kayla Churchill. That was the woman who was accused of charged with trespassing on school property to try to make a point about school safety, and she got trounced. So the two, Bob Clark, who Chris McCarthy actually had worked with when he was a Freetown selectman, said he's been a longtime member of the school committee. 612 votes. The school committee member Blum got 617 votes. Kayla Churchill got 158 votes. So that was pretty decisive there. Yeah. So, 13 write-ins and 130 blanks. So looks like Kayla Churchill did not make it onto the school committee, which is a victory for not only school committee members Blum and Clark in Freetown, but for it's a victory for schools, I think, and rational policy making. So again, congrats to Brian Monroe, Stephanie Pickup. Congrats to new planning board members, Patrick Carr and Rui De Silva. So long to Wayne Hayward. And congrats to school committee members Blum and Clark for their re-election. So that's the results. We got the Dartmouth town elections tomorrow, and what we're going to talk about going forward, I think, is the town elections for the Tri-Town School Committee, and we're going to have those. We're just going to see if we can get those candidates featured here on WBSM as well. These school committee races are becoming very hotly contested. So I think a lot of it is honestly has to do with culture war stuff. I don't know if some candidates are running for the right reasons. I would categorize someone as Ms. Churchill as running for the wrong reasons. And so, it's good to see that type of, behavior not rewarded with a school committee seat. So we'll be tracking the Dartmouth town elections tomorrow as well, and I'll be with Sheriff Hodgson tomorrow. So leave us an app chat message, leave us an open line call, and we'll take all of that. Stay tuned. This is South Coast Tonight on 1420 WBSM. We're going to hit this break. We'll be right back. Welcome back. So, again, we got that news that Wayne Hayward, who, we have a story on WBSM.com. He had been found, he'd been investigated and had to go to a training for sexual harassment for explicit comments he said to an employee. He just lost his planning board seat after being there for 30 years. So there's two new planning board members. So long to Wayne Hayward. I was one of the people that did not vote for him. By the way, so and it seems like many more of you agreed with me. And congrats to Brian Monroe and Steph Pickup for their election to Brian Monroe's re-election to the Fairhaven School Committee. Brian Monroe is usually the chair. He was the vice chair this year. I imagine he'll be the chair of the school committee again. Steph Pickup won the vacant seat for election. So congrats to her as well. We had Steph and Brian on last week. I thought they were great. I thought they were they were very nice. They're very nice people. They had great platforms. And it was, that was a tough race. That was tough. That was a difficult choice for people of Fairhaven had to make because you had more than one good candidate for two spots, right? There were more than two good candidates and there were only two spots. Now you'd like to say, well, you hope every election's like that. Every town election's like that. It's just not. It's just not. So anyway, if you want to message us on WBSM app chat, you can. I am here until 10 o'clock with you guys, or you can leave a voicemail on the open line feature. So again, one of the silver linings I think is you have an opportunity now to start using features that you hadn't used before, like the app chat, which is a lot of fun, or like the app in general, which is again I think the most effective way of enjoying the content that we work hard to produce here at WBSM. So stay tuned.